Do have David Williams to chat to us about Transnet and whether or not that parastatal is still reeling from the impact of state capture. Of course, you and I agree that it is. Let's quickly just reconnect to David Williams now in terms of what's happening at our ports of entry and in particular with Transnet. David, thank you very much for coming back and reconnecting with us after what happened a little earlier. Just firstly, we find out from experts that the company is facing an acute skills shortage because a lot of skilled workers are actually leaving. Should we see this as people who are opting to jump off a sinking ship?
Well, it probably isn't a perception of sinking ship, but this is an old story with government. It's happened in education, it's happened in various other areas of government life, and this has been happening since even before the democratic elections in 1994. When government wants to save money, or a particular entity wants to save money, it offers people a voluntary package. And of course, what often happens is the best people and the people who can easily get work elsewhere are happy to take quite a generous package and then go and get work elsewhere. So I think that's one of the aspects of what has undermined Transnet's capacity.
And what about what Moodys are saying? They're saying that the executive that took over since 2020 will bring it back, likely bring it back to its glory. But we found out that there was a 5.7 million or billion rand loss in their finances.
Well, that money, the money problem has also been enduring, and this is not a recent issue. I think it's important to note also that from the Zondo Commission, corruption was identified, security issues. We saw in the Sunday Times just this week about ghost trains, whereby coal trains which are running but don't actually get to where they're supposed to be and are literally, the coal is stolen and millions of rand are at stake there. But also Transnet's revenue has dropped dramatically because the number of trains that it's been running has dropped dramatically. So it's a vicious circle. It can't carry the loads that customers want it to, particularly minerals like coal and iron ore, and in the general freight business. And the fewer trains that run, obviously the less revenue they get, and the customers go elsewhere. Whether the new management team can turn it around, this is not a recent problem. This has been in the making for 20 or 30 years, but particularly the last 10 years. And the board is also new. The senior executives, apparently, very few of them have experience beyond a couple of years. Does the board know what questions to ask the executive? So this is a big, complex problem. Above all, I think, security. Infrastructure is vandalized and stolen. Yeah. Transnet itself has said they cannot solve this on its own. It's a national crime issue. And if there are trains running which cannot be tracked, their controls are appalling.
And just lastly and very quickly, David, we saw in part 2 of his state capture report, Chief Justice Raymond Zondo basically saying that Transnet was used for kickbacks to benefit the Gupta family, etc. And then you see, for instance, obviously it's up to law enforcement to actually implement recommendations. But you hear from the Public Enterprises Minister, Pravin Gordhan, just 2 weeks ago, tabling that bill, that 23-page bill that says maybe all state parastatals should be looked after by a holding company, and that holding company will then eliminate line departments, right? Meaning that even the ministers that are in those departments won't exist anymore, especially his department. But will that assist us if the board of that particular holding company is apparently supposed to be appointed by the president anyway? How do they not, adhere to political fear or interference?
Well, whether it's political fear or interference, there's always going to be that, obviously, with the government. But it sounds, what you've just talked about, sounds like a lot of work for the people who design PowerPoint presentations at board level and executive level, calling divisions different things, rather like Eskom, splitting up distribution and generation. The problems are on the ground. The equipment is stolen. The locomotives are not working. There appear to be not enough skills to make things happen. So rearrangement of deck chairs is not going to be the answer.
Absolutely not. David, thank you so much for your time here on eNCA and for your expertise. We do appreciate it.